Hi everyone, this is Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH3501, and the sun is in my eyes and I need to just move out of the way slightly for a few minutes. This is the overview summary of the 17th lecture in our lecture programme, which is entitled Reflexive and Critical Thinking. And what I was planning to do with this lecture is to bring forward something which I planned to do after Easter, which is in the lead up and the run up to the academic report that you're going to write for coursework D, which is worth 50% of the module. So what I'm going to do is, we've covered this in the past, but I'm going to reuse it again and build on what we've discussed in the past about critical thinking and about kind of thinking skills as they are understood, if you like, as part of the academic process. We'll also have a lecture about report writing, and this will be very useful for your technology project reports as well. And we'll also have a lecture about about evidence gathering. So I'll make these available on the DMU Commons wiki as well. And we'll have opportunities to talk and discuss these issues. So the main focus of this lecture is to think about why do we need critical thinking, and what is the model, what is the approach that we're taking to critical thinking as something which we can use, if you like, as a kind of practical approach, which is something which gives us the benefit of being able to use our critical thinking skills to not just problem solve, but also to identify what future problems might be, so problem posing. So this is a different model of learning from, if you like, just rote learning or kind of learning by imitation. And I think one of the important things about this is the idea that we can learn by imitation. We can learn by being directed. Somebody tells us which buttons to take, and we kind of just learn the pattern of behaviour, if you like, and we become very proficient through imitation. But what I'd suggest is that if we learn by experimentation and by discovery and independent investigation, yes, we will make a lot of mistakes along the way, and we need guidance, but we might arrive at the same conjunction, the same point as somebody who's learned by imitation, and you might not be able to tell the difference at that point. You say, well, they've got the same skills, they've got the same outlook, but circumstances change, and not everything in life stays the same, and things move on, and technology changes, and people change, and people's relationships change. So the context in which you've learned all of those skills change. The question is, does the person who learned by imitation, are they able to adapt and change, or are they stuck in the certainty and the knowledge of what they only already know, or are they open to other ways of thinking and other ways of looking at the problems, and because they've learned how to learn effectively. So learning by separation, by discovery, gives you the opportunity to make your mistakes and to find out what it is that learning is about in itself, and not just to merely regurgitate and repeat what people have already said, which makes you look very proficient, but doesn't necessarily get into the problem-posing mindset that we are going to need for the future. So this is about separating cause from effect. We're trying to look at the model of academic investigation on the basis of saying, X plus Y equals Z. What we have to break that down. We have to say what is meant by X, what is meant by Y, what is meant by plus, what is meant by equals. And when we make the assumption that we see a phenomena in social life, and we say people are like this because, and we'll often make a kind of prejudged assumption that what we see is the product of patterns of thinking and assumptions, received assumptions, that we can kind of use as a ready-made explanation, if you like. And what the argument is for academic critical thinking is that we go back over these issues and we look for empirical evidence, and we observe and we participate and we ask and we discuss and we build evidence bases up, and we stop relying on assumptions, but we start to use and look for, if you like, patterns which actually fit in with fit or don't fit with the appropriate models. So that's kind of the aim of the academic inquiry. And I think the best way to think about this is in terms of, what will you be in 10 years' time? You'll graduate and you'll move into a job, or you'll carry on learning for a while, and maybe you'll go into teaching, or you'll set up your own business. And usually in about 10 years' time, you're moving into a position where you're starting to employ other people and draw up and draft job adverts for people to come and work in where, and you will be consulted on this. You'll have input to this, and what really will you be asking for from people? That's a really good question. So think of it this way, and see if I can explain it. It's a difficult one to explain, but in 10 years' time, you want graduates who are presently 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. What will you be asking of the next generation of teachers who will be teaching those 10, 11-year-olds so that they are ready for employment in the world that you do not know is going to be in operation in 10 years' time? And when you think of it like that, it's kind of, one, it's the privilege of teaching, and two, it kind of really shapes and questions the idea of what do we need in terms of skills. So an example of this is, I posted an article on DMU Talk about this, which is about the idea that we have different levels of intelligence, different ways of accounting for our intelligence, IQ, intelligence quotient. And then more recently, people have looked at emotional intelligence, how well you respond to people. So you can be super, super smart in a logical sense, but really poor at communicating with people, which means that your ideas don't get shared and used because people can't understand you or empathise with you. The third factor, and there are many other factors that people use, but the third factor that's being used and introduced is adaptability. How adaptable are you? What's your adaptability quotient? Are you able to adapt to changing circumstances and different technologies and different social arrangements and different approaches and ideas? So the idea that we have to have a fixed approach to learning is something that we kind of is less important. And what we really want are people who are problem posers, not just problem solvers, but people who can actually say, okay, well, we can anticipate solving this problem, but it opens up a whole load of other issues that we need to deal with. This is the academic process. This is what we gain and we benefit from being able to look at things in a kind of structured, kind of critical way. So what we'll do in this lecture is really look through some of those issues and ideas, and we've covered these before, but I think reinforcement and explore them in a bit more depth is really important for us. So kind of, what do we mean by analysis? What do we mean by evaluation? What kind of explanations do we need to aim for? Truth and plausibility, interest and relationship between the two. What can we get away with? What works for today, but we know we'll have to challenge tomorrow, kind of thing. And how can we do that independently and kind of build that into our self-regulation of how we approach problems. Right, so there's a lot to think about. It's very useful and practical content and stuff, so it will be useful on a number of different levels for other parts of your studies. The notes are available on the DMU Commons Wiki. Just go to wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk. to look for the TECH3501 section. If you want to carry on the conversation and share any examples or any other media that you've seen which might be relevant to this or other things, go to Talk, the DMU Talk platform, which is talk.our.dmu.ac.uk, which you can also download onto your phone as an Android app or as an Apple app as well. So you don't have to just use that from a PC or something like that. But the notes are up online, and I'll see you at the lecture.